when you die, will you know your loved ones when you get to heaven? Will they know you? Will you recognize them? Will you be able to hold conversations with them? I want to read you something from the Gospel of Matthew. I want you to listen closely to the language that Matthew uses here. He says, after 6 days, Jesus took with him Peter, James, and John, the brother of James, and led them up a high mountain by themselves. There he was transfigured before them. His face shone like the sun, and his clothes became as white as the light. Just then there appeared before them Moses and Elijah talking with Jesus. Peter said to Jesus, "Lord, it is good for us to be here. If you wish, I will put up 3 shelters, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah." And while he was still speaking, a bright cloud enveloped them, and a voice from the cloud said, "This is my Son, whom I love. With him I am well pleased. Listen to him." When the disciples heard this, they fell face down on the ground, terrified. Well, this is clearly a vision of heaven. When Moses was alive, Moses begged God to show him his glory. And God said, to put it frankly, "Moses, you can't handle my glory." But Moses insisted. He wanted to see the glory of God. And so God agreed to show him just the backside of his glory. Not the full frontal view of his glory, but the backside of his glory. And God passed by Moses. He showed him his glory, just the backside of his glory. And as he passed by, Moses' face began to light up. In fact, his face became so brilliant that when he descended from the mountain to be among the Israelites, he had to put a bag over his face because they could not view him in that kind of brilliance. Well, that scene is kind of repeated right here in this story of the Transfiguration. But what's interesting to me is that when Moses and Elijah appear, Peter, James, and John recognized them. They knew immediately who they were. Now, I like to say they had no Sunday school pictures of them. They had no artist renderings of them. They just knew because God had revealed to them that they were in the presence of his glory. And as such, they would have instant knowledge. They would have instant view of what now we know is heaven. Well, Peter recognized this. He said, "It's good for us to be here." And in typical Peter fashion, he said, "I don't want to go anywhere else. I want to stay right here. And I'll build 3 tabernacles, 3 tents. I'll build one for you, and one for Moses, and one for Elijah." He recognized them. He knew who they were, even though they were separated by hundreds and hundreds of years. You will recognize your loved ones. You will experience the knowledge of relationships that you've never even had. I like to tell mothers who have lost children. I like to say there are children in heaven you have never met. Mothers who have had miscarriages. Mothers who have had miscarriages they never even knew were miscarriages. Those children are congregating and waiting for you in heaven. And you will recognize them, and they will recognize you. Because heaven is a place where time and space and matter no longer are valid tools of separation. We will not be able to experience the pain and the heartache that earth brings us, but we will experience the eternal glory of God. That's why Peter wanted to stay where he was, because he knew he was in the presence of the glory of God. But just as quickly as that vision took place, it suddenly ended. And when they came down from the mountain, it is interesting to note, when they came down from that mountain, what immediately confronted them was a person possessed by demons. They had come back to reality. Earth is a place of brokenness. Earth is a place of fallenness. Earth is a place of sinfulness. Heaven is just the opposite. Heaven is where we experience the full glory of God. If Moses experienced only the backside of God's glory and had to wear a bag over his head, what will our glory look like when we are face to face with the eternal glory of God in this wonderful place He has built for us, a place where we will know our loved ones will know us, and we will experience the eternal pleasure of God's amazing grace and God's amazing glory.